Even before I found it, I hated being in Ricky's bachelor house. My family had just moved into the neighborhood and my mom and his mom apparently hit it off. When she found out her son was around my age, she insisted that two of us have a play date. She promised me it'd be fun to get to know one of the neighborhood kids, but the second Mrs. Bachelor and my mom stepped out to gossip, I could tell this date was going to be miserable. For one thing, Ricky didn't even bother trying to start a conversation with me. Instead, he sat on his couch staring down at the ground while I threw my favorite bouncy ball in between my hands. I thought it was only fair that he did the talking since he was the host and all. But finally, I couldn't stand the silence anymore and piped up. So, what is it you do for fun around here?
Huh?
He asked as he cocked his head toward me. It was like he'd forgotten I was there. You know, fun. Do you play video games or anything? I looked over at their TV and was immensely disappointed to see that there was nothing but a cable box set up.
Oh yeah,
He paused for a concerning amount of time as he tried to think of something.
I read, I guess.
Read what? I asked.
Books?
He responded before dropping eye contact with me to stare at the floor. I waited for a moment to see if he'd say anything else, but he stayed silent. I'm kinda hungry, I said, more to break the unbearable silence than anything else. Do you guys have anything? Snacks?
Kitchen's that way.
He said, pointing toward the hallway without looking up at me.
Take whatever.
I couldn't help but roll my eyes as I stood up, though I don't think he noticed. I started bouncing my ball as I walked down to the hallway, just to generate some noise. Shit! I cried out as I missed a catch and watched the ball bounce away from me. I tried to catch it, but rolled out of my grasp and into the door. It was just cracked open. I groaned. It was my favorite ball, and I didn't want to lose it. I decided I had to go into the room. I opened up the door and got more upset when I saw the door had led down to the staircase going down. This must have been the basement, I'd realized. Great. I pulled my phone from my pocket and turned on the flashlight, hoping my ball had just rolled a few steps down, but I couldn't see it. Not seeing a light switch either, I kept the flash on as I walked down the old steps. My ball wasn't on the floor by the staircase either, and I was starting to lose my nerve. The basement was pitch black, apart from the light of my phone, and furthermore it smelled disgusting. I thought about just running back up the stairs and forgetting about it. But since I'd gone this far, I figured I could at least check the floor with my light and see if I could spot it. I scanned the basement floor for a few minutes without seeing anything. I was about to give up before noticing a spot of neon orange poking out behind a box by the wall furthest from the door, the same color as my ball. I sighed, grateful that something good happened today. I walked up to the crate and leaned down to pull the ball out, but paused when I noticed something weird. There was something off about the wall behind the crate. Just to make sure, I flicked the flashlight across the room and I was sure of it. While the other ones were white, this one was more beige, and looking closer at it, the texture seemed different as well. I touched it and drew my hand back almost immediately, and the wall was warm. What the hell? I mumbled nervously as I stood up and backed away to get a closer look at it, when the light suddenly filled the room, allowing me to see in its entirety.
What are you doing down here?
I heard Ricky ask from behind me.
I thought you were going to the kitchen.
I would have responded, but I was unable to speak as I stood frozen at the side in front of me. The whole wall encased in skin, thin and translucent enough that I could see veins running through it. In the light, I saw that there was even hairs and blemishes sticking out of it. On the opposite side of the crate, there was even a particularly large whitehead. What the fuck is this? I asked when I finally managed to snap out of the initial shock.
Hey!
Ricky shouted.
You shouldn't swear. Mom says it's bad to—
What the fuck is this, Ricky? I screamed as I finally turned around to look at him. As terrifying as the wall was.
What? That?
He asked, looking behind me.
It's just our flesh wall.
Your what? He looked down on the floor suddenly, sheepishly.
You know, your flesh wall? You don't have one?
I stared at him in silence, unable to comprehend the situation. I'm trying to think of something to say. What does it do?
What do you mean?
He asked, now seeming to get annoyed.
It doesn't do anything. You just have to clean it once in a while so it doesn't smell gross.
Clean it? I turned to look at it again and somehow it looked worse. The skin and the edges of the wall arched back like the walls and ceilings are crushing into place. The edges, I noticed, were whiter as it formed loss of blood circulation.
Yeah, clean it.
Ricky replied as he started walking towards me.
Here, let me show you.
He kneeled down by the crate.
This is yours, right? Here.
He asked as he grabbed the ball and handed it back to me. He then opened the box, grabbing a pair of gloves and mask, and covered his face. To my horror, I saw he was walking towards the whitehead. No, I stated as I realized what he was doing.
I'm actually happy that you came down here. I needed to pop this. The longer you wait, the grosser they are.
He put his hands on it and started to press down. No, 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 I cried, turning away just in time, but still hear a web pop as the whitehead opened. I looked back and gagged at the sight. The wall now had a large gash and oozed thick, bright blood. Ricky turned to look at me, but his face was blocked with a mixture of blood and pus. Now covered his mask. It was too much for me. I bolted up the stairs and back in the hallway, screaming all the way. I didn't stop screaming until I got outside to my mom. What's wrong? She asked, immediately cutting off the conversation with Ricky's mom to be at my side. Are you hurt? We have to get the fuck out of here, I shouted. She was about to say something, but I began to sob. And so she said quickly to Ricky's mom goodbye and went to the car with me. On the way home, she kept trying to ask me questions on whether or not Ricky tried to hurt me, if he said something that upset me, but I didn't say anything. I knew she wouldn't believe the truth, and I didn't want to go back into the basement to prove it to her, so I decided to think of something to say once we got home. Once we got into the house, we were greeted by my dad. I was about to bucket to my room when I noticed that he had a bunch of cleaning supplies set up. What are you doing with all that, honey? Mom asked as we walked into the kitchen.
Oh, I'm getting ready to clean out the attic.
He replied.
Something smells awful in there.